everyone, my name is Alexandra Yurig, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the appeal to tradition fallacy. So imagine hearing this. You have to because it's family tradition. Maybe your mother or father tells you this when you tell them you want to go to school to become a lawyer. However, it's family tradition that you become a mechanic instead. Your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, they were all mechanics before you. Therefore, you must become one too. It's family tradition. Do you follow your dreams and go to law school and become a big successful lawyer? Or do you become a mechanic because that's what the men in your family are supposed to do? So a tradition can be more than saying grace before eating or wearing white at your wedding or having a big Italian Sunday dinner once a week. So a tradition is not a reason to do something or act a certain way or even believe a certain belief. So sometimes you might have to sit back and say to yourself, why exactly am I doing what I'm doing? And is this even the right thing to do? So after doing some research about appeal to tradition, I started thinking about traditions that I myself may or may not be practicing within my family and community. And similar to the scenario I mentioned before, it came to my attention that when I decided to go to college and study business, that I was actually going to be the first woman on my mom's side of the family to even attend a university. So I wanted more for my future than to be a stay-at-home housewife like the rest of the women on that side of the family. So when I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go to Rider, I'm gonna get a degree, I'm gonna hopefully have a bright career and a bright future ahead of me. So I kind of broke the tradition and the norm that, men go to work and women stay home. So the idea of appealing to tradition is important to understand because we as young adults who might be starting families soon and having our own children soon, we need to be able to differentiate, are you doing something because it's what you believe is right, or is this actually the right thing to be doing? So understanding appeal to tradition will allow you to practice what you as an individual person believes to be the right thing to do rather than being under the impression that you're doing it because it's the only way you know, it's how you've been brought up. So in a few moments, I will be giving you an explanation of what appeal to tradition is and how traditions and common practices and norms are not always supposed to be followed. So now I'm going to be giving you an explanation of this concept. So what is appeal to tradition? So in an article written by Tim Harding called The Logical Place, he explains that the common belief that something is better or correct or should be done that way because it's older and traditional and always has been done that way is the fallacy of appeal to tradition. And the Webster's dictionary definition of a fallacy is a false or mistaken idea, meaning appeal to tradition is not always right. So traditions are often passed down by family members from generation to generation with no explanation or reason as to why it's always been done this way. It is important to remember that following a tradition or common practice should outweigh the potential benefits of switching or changing to something new. So in my example before, what are the potential benefits of not becoming a mechanic and going to school to become a lawyer? That's something you would have to, internally analyze. So the Logical Fallacies article states that the way something has always been done is not a reason, it's actually an absence of a reason to do something. So meaning the only reason you might be doing X is because you've been doing X for generations and there's no reason for it. That's just, everyone's been doing it that way. So why end a common practice? Next, I am going to be giving you some real life examples as to why. The appeal tradition is not always the right thing to do. So in the Tim Harding article, it referred to a couple of examples. One of them being the earth is flat. So the idea that the earth is flat is older than the idea of the earth being round, and the idea that the earth is flat has been believed for a much longer period of time that the earth is round. So if your, great-great-grandmother told you that she believed the earth was round and that's what people in your family, that's what they believe, should you believe that too? No, there's studies and research that has been done to prove and, break away from the commonly believed fact that the earth is flat. There's research that shows, hey, the earth is round. So another example from that article that really stuck with me was slavery. So in the South, slavery was a very, very common practice. And if you were born into a family that had slaves, you might have been led to believe that, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. This is, this is the way I was brought up, that having slaves is, correct. And that's the right way to live because I've never lived any other way. Slavery was considered normal to many people back then. So does that make it correct? Absolutely not. So therefore, from this example, you can easily see how someone can get brainwashed into thinking that tradition and, what's normal, is correct when it's actually not always. So in closing, I hope that the knowledge and examples I presented you with today about appeal to tradition allows you to make decisions for yourself and identify that you are not making them because that's the way it has to be, because it's not the way it has to be. So we've discussed what appeal to tradition is and examples that prove following tradition is not always the right thing to do. So thinking back to the scenario I mentioned in the beginning should make you ask yourself, what would I do in that situation? Would you appeal to tradition and put what you really wanted aside to become a mechanic for the sake of your family and, that's what the men do? Or would you be the one to break that tradition? If you had a son, would you, push him to become a mechanic as well because that's what your parents did to you? Or would you allow him to pursue his own dreams? So imagine, I can't imagine, being faced with that situation would be easy. However, it is important to understand that, the benefit of following that tradition should definitely outweigh any alternatives you have. And understanding appeal to tradition is super important today.